Hey everyone, Cody Hayes here, and I'd like to welcome you to part three as we look at the pastorals, the letters to Timothy and Titus. And where we left off was with Paul and women, and there's going to be another portion that we're going to look at, but essentially it's regarding the issue of the ordination of women. And would Paul have approved of such things? And I don't know if he would have or not, because of the culture in which he lived in. So I don't really have a complete judgment on that issue except to say I don't know. But now let's look at another portion here regarding Paul and women. It's another passage from First Timothy, though not as well known. Yet she will be saved through childbearing, provided they continue in faith and love and holiness with modesty. Now, this passage, again, is not so well known. It's not cited as often as the I permit no woman to teach or have authority over a man from a few verses earlier. But the reference to childbearing certainly would reflect various forms of Gnosticism where women did not have children, men and women did not have children because that would involve them being trapped into this world that's controlled by the evil god Yaldabaoth. And of course, one of the goals was to be free from Yaldabaoth's creation. But does the rhetoric reflect Paul in his undisputed letters? Well, I give three answers to that question. First, Paul, he was aware that some women do not have children through no fault of their own. I referenced this passage from Paul in a previous lecture, but it comes from the letter to the Romans, where Paul makes the statement about how all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Well, if you take sin as it's being used there as personal moral failing, some individuals cannot sin. They can't sin because they don't understand the concept of sin. And Paul was aware of such individuals. So, in a general sense, all have sinned, but there are always exceptions. And Paul was aware that some women do not have children through no fault of their own. They don't find a spouse, or um, they're just not able to conceive, or they do conceive but they can't carry the child to term. All negative things we're aware of today, and it would have been known back then too. So Paul was aware that some women don't have children. Another issue is that while Paul does mention situations regarding marriage in First Corinthians, he wishes that people were unmarried like him. So even though Paul does mention issues regarding marriage, he wishes that people were unmarried like him, because if you're unmarried like Paul, you can focus on the matters of the Lord, the matters of God, the matters of Christ. Whereas if you're married, you have to focus on domestic issues. Yes, you can also focus on those issues too, relating to God, Christ, whatnot, but you're also going to be focused with domestic issues. So Paul wishes that people were more like him. So far, the rhetoric does seem out of place for Paul, but maybe he could have changed his mind regarding this issue. Well, even if he did, it's unlikely that he would find a woman to give him babies once he's become, as he describes himself in Philemon, as an old man. So, if I was to give my judgment on this particular passion or passage, excuse me, sorry. No, this isn't Paul. this is somebody pretending to be him. So, of the issues that we've looked at with the pastorals, the first one, the early church structure slash hierarchy, yes, Paul would have been aware of that. I make the judgment Paul was aware of such things. In terms of the first portion with women and say the ordination of women to the clergy, or at least being treated the same as their male counterpart, I don't know what his attitude would have been, factoring in the time period that he lived. But the third portion, the whole, yet she will be saved through childbearing, etc., I don't think that was Paul. I think that was somebody pretending to be him, because the rhetoric uh, of this passage, even though if it is a reference, excuse me, if it is a reference, and it likely is, to various forms of Gnosticism that Paul would have been aware of, the rhetoric just doesn't seem to fit the character of Paul from what I've described. Well, anyway, that's all that we have related to the pastorals. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. Until then, take care.